Now, the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
I think that's in his DNA a little bit, that he's competitive and all that. We want to kind of describe our team that way, bounce back, respond. We use these words, but then we want to put them into action, and that played out on Saturday.
Nick Marsh is open downfield. They have him again. Big shot, big play for the freshman. He nailed it. Jonathan Kim with 1 second on the clock.
Coming off a 27-24 win at Maryland this past weekend, it's safe to say there is a lot of hope and optimism surrounding Michigan State's football program that we have not seen in a couple seasons. A lot of it has to do with the young dynamic duo of sophomore quarterback Aiden Childs and freshman wide receiver Nick Marsh. Against the Terrapins, Childs threw for 363 passing yards, which is the 8th most by an MSU quarterback in a single game, while Marsh had 194 receiving yards, and that is the 2nd most by an MSU freshman ever in a game. We had a chance this week to catch up with their head coach, Jonathan Smith, to discuss more on their performance and what they have brought to this program.
All right, well, I sort of want to start with how we ended last week. I don't know if you remember it. You said let it rip. Aiden basically let it rip on Saturday against Maryland. What did you just like overall about the way he played against the Terrapins?
He finished. He did attack mindset out there. Obviously was not perfect, but stayed aggressive. I thought he saw the field pretty well. Overall, his decision making, besides a couple of them, I thought was pretty solid. We just got to be a little more accurate on a couple of his turnovers. But he's a resilient, good player that creates, and and guys made some plays for him on the outside, which were huge.
Yeah, with the turnovers, the 3 interceptions, I think what stood out was his ability to bounce back after them. Is that sort of just in his DNA, or how has he grown in that area?
I think that's in his DNA a little bit, that he's competitive and all that. We want to kind of describe our team that way, bounce back, respond. We use these words, but then we want to put them into action, and that played out on Saturday.
And then obviously his top connection on Saturday, Nick Marsh. I know you guys talked about him throughout fall camp and the way he was performing and impressing the coaching staff. What did you just like of the way the true freshman was able to go out there and perform?
Yeah, he made some big plays that were needed. And it wasn't just on like a couple of deep balls. This guy caught the ball on the outside, operated our 2-minute drill really well, made some good plays there, blocked. And we had contributors, multiple guys in that room, which was nice, with Glove making a big time catch and in the red zone as well. Kind of a deep shot. Montori gets it started with a nice touchdown play. So out of that group, we like the progression of week 1 to week 2.
The person leading that group, Courtney Hawkins, he obviously is known for developing wide receivers. You saw in the NFL, Jaden Reed had 2 touchdowns. Jalen Naylor had a touchdown. Is that sort of what stands out with Coach Hawkins, and just his ability to develop this talent to become even better?
Yeah, does a really good job with those guys and recognizing them from practice and developing them and teaching. And which Coach Hawkins' offense is a little new on him. He's dove into it. Suggestions in regards to what's best for those guys, how they've worked in practice to earn some of this playing time, and now he's got some options in that room.
Yeah, how have you seen Nick Marsh grow from when he came in, obviously in January, fresh out of high school, or still was in high school, I guess, in January?
Yeah.
How has he really grown to now where he is among your guys' top?
He's got a good work ethic, and I think he's sharp. And learning from previous mistakes, his approach, spring ball to fall camp, he had a really consistent fall camp. So we felt confident that if he stays on that track, he can really help us, and he definitely did last week.
You talked a little bit about finishing games. I know last year there were some games that they were ugly, but there were other games where this team was in and they just couldn't finish. And you've talked about that when you looked at film of last year's group. What has allowed this team to finish to where they're getting wins instead of losses?
Yeah, it's a mindset, understanding that college football is a long game, especially now with a 2-minute timeout at the end of the 2nd and the 4th. These things are long. There's a lot can take place. There's a lot of football left, and they keep swinging. And after 2 games, we've had to win the thing in the 4th quarter. I can see a lot of similar games coming, and so we want to have that kind of mindset and attribute about ourselves.
He nailed it. Jonathan Kim with 1 second on the clock. In all likelihood, gives Jonathan Smith, his head coach, his first Big Ten win.
Having a kicker like Jonathan Kim in your back pocket's got to be a nice confidence booster too.
Yeah, that was awesome. You know, because he does. He works really hard at it, and we do. We got a ton of confidence in him. He made a couple of big kicks for us, really both halves. And once we got it down there, we got it where we felt confident for him. But I think he prefers the right side of it, and he banged it through.
What did you see was the biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2? I know a lot of people talk about that. The first week to the second week is where you see the biggest improvement.
Well, we made an emphasis on the defensive side, on the penalty side, right? Especially after the whistle and proper technique, and we were great there. Felt good about that. We wanted to be more explosive offensively and some of the detail that comes on some of these connections. And it's not just a receiver from a quarterback, the guys in front of him setting up the action pass. Well, we got that done, and so those were two steps we're really pleased with.
I know you talked a little bit in the press conference about coming up this weekend with all the history Hall of Fame weekend in Prairie View A&M. How have you really had any time to focus on the history of Michigan State football and, you know, that 1965 and 66 teams and what they did?
Learned a little bit about it. We're actually going to talk to the team a little bit about tomorrow morning. So they're aware of what's taking place and the cool history story of those teams that were really good, but the impact they made across the country. And we're going to celebrate them this weekend with a team coming in that is in that type of conference and play. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and getting ready for your third game. What is the one thing you think has really stood out that is, I don't want to say surprised, but that you've been really impressed with about this group so far?
You know, just impressed. Again, go back to the finishing. I am impressed. I feel like on the sideline, the way we're working, we're doing it together. You know, and again, we're only a couple of games in, but feel good about this team is understanding the approach that's going to take all of us, and they're respected and recognizing the contribution that everybody's making.
Your first Big Ten game, obviously now in the books. Any difference between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten for you?
Oh, I mean, conference play is conference play. I do respect for Maryland, Coach Loxley, what that team can do. There's some good players, and so feel really good that we were able to find a win.
Marsh's performance led to him earning the Big Ten Freshman of the Week honor, as well as the Sean Alexander National Freshman of the Week honor. So it was certainly quite the performance for the Detroit native just 2 games in to his college career. And one player who has to face Marsh each week in practice is UCF transfer Nikai Martinez. We'll chat with the Florida native right after the break.
In every moment and every shared smile, MSU FCU's Visa Signature Card is there, earning 3% cash back on groceries to stock their dorm room, 2% back on that special Spartan mom shirt. With a $100 welcome offer and the first year's annual fee waived, it's more than just a card. It's your partner in making every moment count, even the ones that tug at your heartstrings. Make every moment more rewarding with an MSU FCU Visa Signature Card.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
The Michigan State defense made quite the first impression in Game 1 against Florida Atlantic here at Spartan Stadium. The defense had 7 sacks and a pair of turnovers, and one of those turnovers came from UCF transfer Nikai Martinez, as he had an interception in his first game as a Spartan. Our Tyler Driesinga sat down with him to discuss more on how he arrived in East Lansing and how it's been going so far.
Bancher will go to the air, a rare throw, second interception of the first half for Michigan State, and this time it's Martinez who has it.
Nikai Martinez first started playing football at just 3 years old, and says at first he hated the sport.
What changed where you went from hating it to loving it?
I would say I scored my first touchdown.
That'll do it.
And I think when I got to tackle football, it more like clicked for me instead of flag.
The tackling portion of tackle football quickly became where Martinez excelled. He grew into a hard-hitting defensive back and received Division I interest as early as his freshman year at Apopka High School in Orlando, Florida. One of the coaches who started recruiting him early on was then Auburn head coach Gus Malzahn. And by the time Martinez was a junior in high school, Malzahn had moved a lot closer to him. He had been fired at Auburn and hired as the head coach at the University of Central Florida, right in Orlando.
When he came to UCF, he kind of made me like a priority. Like, he called me before he even moved into his first house.
And was playing for your hometown team something that you had thought of much before Malzahn got there?
No, not even. Like, it's so crazy to even think about that I was at UCF, because I never went to UCF games my whole life there. Like, I've never thought about UCF. Even when Coach Malzahn first got there, I was like, no, I'm not staying in Orlando. I wouldn't trade it. I was able to be home and go home back and forth and be around with family for them first 2 years, and I feel like that was a blessing that not everybody had a chance to do.
Martinez played in every game as a freshman and started every game as a sophomore last fall. He compiled 54 tackles and had 3 interceptions.
Intercepted. What a play made. Nikai Martinez has it. He's inside the 10.
But this past spring, he decided to enter the transfer portal, hoping to find a new home where he'd have a better chance of developing into a pro prospect.
And what went into your decision to transfer ultimately, and why did you end up choosing somewhere that is on the complete opposite end of the country from Florida?
A better opportunity to get my name called on Sundays and get to the next level. I feel like Coach Rossi and Coach Blue Adams, when I came on my visit, they were straight up with me like, this is how it's gonna be, and more like, you're gonna be here or not. Like, but if this is your goal to get to the next level, then we can help you. And the whole time, that's what I was looking for.
In week 1, Martinez took the field for the first time in front of 70,000 fans at Spartan Stadium. As he ran out of the tunnel, he says he became fully aware of the opportunity ahead.
For sure, when I walked out, I was like, okay, like, this is what I asked for, this is what I prayed for, this is what I had these long nights talking to my family about, and it's here, like, but I can't stop and just be satisfied. Like, it's still more work to be done. This is not the end goal.
So a young kid who hated football has grown into a young man chasing the NFL dream. Leaving home to move across the country to Michigan State wasn't a sacrifice he expected to make, but that week 1 interception was an early sign his bet on himself is paying off.
First, I would never think I would be, like he said, on the other side. Like, I'm in Michigan. I thought I was gonna be Florida somewhere, or somewhere like down south somewhere. So just being able for me to take that next step and just be like, okay, you say this what you wanted. You gotta take sacrifices, and it might not be everything you wanted, but for the majority, it's gonna help you for the long run. So just being able to take sacrifices and betting on me, regardless of who's with me and who's not, I know I got me, and I know who I am, and I know whatever I put my mind up to, I can do it.
Martinez says playing a team from Florida in his first game here was a thrill and made that interception just a little extra sweeter for him. And after the break, we're going to be sitting down with another transfer on Michigan State's team who had a huge game in the first game of the season. We'll see you soon.
I love getting out and trying new things, but my seizures have always kept me back. Thankfully, the providers and researchers at MSU Healthcare work together to get my epilepsy under control. So now I can try anything.
At MSU Healthcare, helping you do you is what matters most to us. In fact, it's our mission. Visit healthcare.msu.edu to find a provider.
On the football field, it's important to have really good coverage. The same goes for life. You need a teammate who's got your back, no matter what. Right now, it's time to select your family's Medicaid health insurance provider for next year before it's assigned for you. Just visit healthcareformi.com before September 17th to compare your options. Take control of your healthcare today, because good coverage really matters, right, Nick?
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
Although names like quarterback Aiden Childs and tight end Jack Velling highlighted the list of transfer portal players, first-year head coach Jonathan Smith brought to Michigan State this season, there is another transfer player who has had some eye-popping numbers prior to arriving in East Lansing. That is KRON Lynch Adams, who rushed for over 1,000 yards last year at UMass. And our Haley Schoengart sat down with the running back this week and has more on what drives him both on and off the field.
Game 1 at Spartan Stadium's in the books. How do you describe what it was like to walk out of that tunnel for the first time?
Yeah, it felt good. The atmosphere was beautiful. The fans came and brought a lot of energy, so I was loving it. It felt like a big ball of energy, and I was happy that they was rooting for us.
You sure made a statement coming out, popping off for over 100 yards, a touchdown.
There for a big run. It's KRON Lynch Adams. He hits the second level. He hits the end zone. 63 yards.
What kind of confidence did that instill in you that this was the right decision to land here at MSU?
It made me feel really good, honestly, and actually to kind of do that and get some more like camaraderie and some more energy and love from my teammates, that was a big thing for me as well.
When you entered the transfer portal from UMass, what stood out about Michigan State, Jonathan Smith, and the offense that Brian Lindgren wanted to run?
Right, just kind of seeing like what they did in the past, specifically about for my position. I play running back, and I see that they ran the ball a lot and featured the running back, so that was a big thing for me, as well as kind of getting into the offensive side of things and the scheme of things. That was really kind of what brought me home.
In that running back room, you have Nate Carter. What has he taught you?
Yeah, he's a great teammate. I pick his brain a lot, just kind of asking him, and he asked me some things like, what do you see, what do I see? Like, we kind of just help each other in a way, kind of sharpen each other iron. So it's great having him. And him being like featured and knowing the offense. I was coming here picking his brain and asking him a lot about that as well.
Knowing in camp, everyone kind of knew Nate Carter was going to be running back #1. Did that motivate you at all?
Right, yeah, I would say it definitely was some motivation. I was using that as some motivation as well. But I mean, I did kind of figure like we was going to have a good duo and be one of the best duos in the nation. So I was just kind of looking forward to that and just making sure I came to work every day.
Football player is just one of the many hats you wear. You're also a dad. Tell us a little bit about the light that Ava Rose brings into your life.
Yeah, Ava Rose was a game changer for me, honestly. Like kind of having a kid being in college is not really like the ideal thing, but I say she changed my life in a lot of aspects. Just gave me another ball of motivation. I mean, I eventually want to get to the next level, and using that as a driving force. So just kind of seeing her and knowing that I can't let her down, because I don't know what else I want to do. I want to play football, so just knowing that I want to play football and seeing her and knowing that this is my wave that I can provide for her, it just makes me put everything, all my energy and everything into it. Even when I don't feel like it, I know I have to do it for not only me, for her as well and my family.
What were your initial emotions like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a dad, I'm still in college? How did you begin to process?
Everything just hit me at one time. I was just trying to think about how I could be the best father, be there for her, and also be the best football player I can be so I can be able to provide for her eventually. So just kind of having to sit down and really put the pieces together so I can really provide. That was my biggest thing, is making sure I'm a provider for my child. And that was just my driving factor.
How do you balance everything? School, workouts, football, being a dad?
Sometimes I don't know how I balance it, but I figured it out. So I'm just gonna keep trying to stick to the schedule I've been having right now.
Does she recognize you when you're in your pads and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does. And when she sees me, she goes crazy. Like when I take my helmet off, and I like how that she knows when she's at a football game. She's cheering and she's excited. So I like that.
Is she a part of your game day routine at all?
Yeah, I have to see her. Kind of like the Spartan walk was new for me, so I was making sure I was peeking to my side to make sure I didn't walk past her. But I have to see her. I have to get a hug and kiss from her. I have to.
To have the staff and your fellow teammates embrace her like you would, what does that mean to you, especially being a transfer? You came in late this summer.
Yeah, it feels good. Like I like that family-oriented, like that side of seeing everybody that's happy for seeing my child. And like want to play with her and want to talk to her, like that warms my heart, honestly. Like they treat her like family, and we couldn't ask for nothing else better.
Following the win over Maryland, MSU head coach Jonathan Smith did say he would like to see the run game take an extra step as the season progresses, and players like KRON Lynch Adams will have a great chance to do that this Saturday when the Spartans take on Prairie View A&M here at Spartan Stadium. We need to take one final break, and when we come back, we're going to be checking in on a couple other programs on Michigan State's campus and see how they did this past week. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
The fall sports season is in full swing here at Michigan State. We've talked about Michigan State's football team, who was off to a 2-0 start this season. But there were plenty of other teams in action this week, including two who are currently ranked in their respective sports. Here's a recap of what's been going on with other programs on campus. This past Sunday on campus, Loyola Chicago wasn't just the opponent for the MSU volleyball team, but the 5th-ranked MSU women's soccer team as well. Starting at the Breslin Center with Leah Johnson and her squad, the Spartans opened up their home schedule this past weekend with a Kathy DeBoer Invitational, and on Sunday, MSU was looking to wrap up the weekend with 3 straight wins. In the first set, the Spartans set it up for the high-flying Zuzana Kulig to put it down and puts MSU up 7-5 early. Later in the first set, off a free ball, Rachel Maisinga sets it across for Akasha Anderson, and the Auburn transfer goes cross-court for the kill as MSU would take the first set 25-19. Second set though, Loyola Chicago had a response as Isma Jujanovic comes through with a big swing as she led Loyola with 16 kills. The Ramblers took the set 25-22. Third set, MSU going for set point and Julia Bishop tees it up for Grace Kelly, and the trademark Grack Attack wins the third set for the Spartans. MSU would then go on to win the fourth set 25-23 thanks to Neil Okur getting the match point. The Spartans defeated Loyola Chicago 3-1. Anderson led the way with 17 kills, and her head coach Leah Johnson was proud of the way she adjusted to the defense as the match wore on.
What I loved about Akasha tonight was that she started the match and they had lined her up pretty well. And we kept talking about that chess match, right? What's the counter strategy? What can you do next? And if you notice later as the match went on, she started using kind of a throw into the middle of the court and scored 3 or 4 times off that when in set 1 and 2, those were blocked because she was trying to swing low seam. So I loved how she counterattacked and started adding some different tools into the game.
Over at DeMartin Stadium on Sunday, the 5th-ranked MSU women's soccer team was also taking on Loyola Chicago. Meg Hughes has been a goal-scoring machine for the Spartans this year and had an unreal chance for an early goal, but the Ramblers keeper gets in front to keep things scoreless, which is how things would stay until the 83rd minute. Then the reigning Big Ten midfielder of the year, Justina Gaynor, had her eyes on the prize and gets it just past the keeper for the go-ahead goal. MSU went on to win 1-0 to wrap up non-conference play at 5-0-2. Then on Monday, both the Michigan State men's and women's golf teams began the season at the Folds of Honor Collegiate Tournament at American Dunes Golf Club in Grand Haven. After round 1 on Monday, the men's team was tied for second place at 3 over, and while it would be tough to catch first place Alabama at 9 under, MSU's top golfer Ashton McCulloch was in a groove. He birdied the par 4 second and par 5 sixth to reach 6 under par. He would then card another birdie on the par 3 13th thanks to a tee shot that puts him 8 feet from the cup. McCulloch shot a 69 on Tuesday to take a 6 under into the third and final round. McCulloch would end up being even par for the third round and would finish in 4th place at 6 under for the 3-round tournament. As a team, the MSU men finished in 4th place at 9 over, while Alabama won the entire thing at 12 under. On the women's side, Michigan State entered round 2 in 10th place, and sophomore from Columbia, Ana Sofia Murcia, picks up a great birdie on the par 5 18th to help MSU sit in 6th place at 18 under. Entering the third round, and Arizona would go on to win the 15-team field, shooting a 4 over par. The MSU women's golf team did finish tied for 4th at 19 over par. The MSU Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2024 was inducted on Friday, and it features the 1965 and 1966 football teams who both won a national championship and are actually the first teams inducted into MSU's Hall of Fame. The entire class also features 6 individuals, and all of them will be honored on Saturday's game against Prairie View A&M here at Spartan Stadium. We appreciate you all for tuning into this week's show, and before we go, here's our play of the week, which is kind of a no-brainer.
Now, the play of the week, sponsored by Schupan & Sons.
Jonathan Kim, fittingly a Virginia native from the DMV, A 37-yarder. Trying to win it for Michigan State. One more deep breath for Jonathan Kim before a 37-yarder. He nailed it. Jonathan Kim with 1 second on the clock. In all likelihood, gives Jonathan Smith, his head coach, his first Big Ten win.
We could all use more joy, more silly, more laughter and love. When you make more room in your heart and home for a Michigan child in foster care, you don't just give this joy, you receive it. Become a foster parent to a child until they can safely reunite with their family. Get started at michigan.gov/hope for a home.